welcome back to my video series. My name is Katrin, and quick recap, we're trying to predict the entire plot for Gladiator II, right? If you haven't watched the first part of this video series, I know it's very long, I know I'm rambling, I'm sorry, but you should watch that because we're building off of what we came up with in the first part of this video, right? Quick recap, nonetheless. If you're just here for part 2, okay. So, quick recap of what happened in the first act. Oh, by the way, because I forgot, I have veered off so much from my script. This is a bit of a mess, but it's okay, it's okay. So for part 1, I gave part 1 a title, right? That was Far From Home, because everyone's kind of far from home. Lucius is far from home, Junior's far from home, Marcus had been far from home, but now he's back home, right? So this was Far From Home. Part 2 has the very creative title, Becoming the Gladiator. Who would have thought, right? Just guess part 3 titles, yeah? That is even more creative. Love it. Okay, so, quick recap. What has happened in part 2? Well, we're 20 years after the events of the first Gladiator film, right? Lucilla sent her son Lucius far away from Rome to keep him safe, right? He built himself a life in Numidia, found himself a wife, they have a child, they're happy, you know, their life is good. He hasn't seen mom in 20 years, it's fine, right? He's kind of angry with her, but he doesn't think of her very often, right? He's very content in Numidia. Till one day, these two, the evil horror twins, Gitta and Caracalla, the emperors of Rome, they sent their most trusted general, Marcus Acacius, to raid Numidia. Marcus, very capable, does. Right, so he takes the city, fights Lucius and a lot of other people, and whether or not he kills her herself or whether he's just responsible for her, Lucius's wife ends up dead. Right, so Lucius swears vengeance. He will have his revenge on Marcus Acacius, whom he considers responsible for his wife's death. Right? Okay. Lucius, as a prisoner of war, is sold into slavery to none other than Macrinus, a dashing, rich arms dealer, who basically monopolized the whole military. Right? He controls the weapons, the food, the wine. He's not someone to be messed with. Right? So, Lucius sold to Macrinus. Macrinus has a huge plan. Like, he has ambition. He's like, I want to be the next emperor. Obviously, that role is already taken by not just one, but 2 guys. He's like, yeah, no problem. I can figure out a way. Right? His evil plan to take over power from these 2 obviously includes Lucius. Why? Well, 1, because he's the main character, 2, because Lucius, as a gladiator, is a great way for Macrinus to gain people's favor, to gain popularity, to gain status, to gain wealth, right? People will come to the arena to see Lucius fight, if he does well. They will place bets on him. They will be very happy to see Lucius perform, right? And Macrinus makes a fortune with Lucius. So, that's the plan. Obviously, Lucius is not very fond of that. Lucius is like, no, why would I do that? Like, why? Macrinus is like, well, what do you want? I could give you something. What is the one thing that Lucius wants? Literally the only thing he can think of. Like, he is focused. Not like me. He's very focused. What does he want? Well, he wants his vengeance. And Macrinus notices. Like, Macrinus is such a smart villain. He's like, yeah, I know you want something. And since Lucius, in that first part, in the naval reenactment, shot an arrow at the lodge where the emperors were seated, but he missed. Happened. You know, Macranus is like, maybe he didn't want to shoot the emperors. Maybe he aimed for someone else. So he just asks him, he's like, whose head could I give you to get you on my side? And Lucius is like, the generals. And Macranus is like, such a coincidence. Like, I want him out of the way too. So, of course, sure, deal, right? So these two struck a deal, right? Lucius is like, okay, I'll fight. I'll win over the masses as long as you keep your promise and get me my revenge. So, how does that come about? Well, so the middle of a story, like the part 2 of a 3-act story structure, is also referred to as fun and games, which is interesting because will it be fun for Lucius? Probably not. Will it be fun for anyone? You know, that is to be seen. But it will be fun for us to watch, right? Fun, right? Okay, so there will be lots of games, you know? Some scheming and plotting. Maybe someone gets stabbed. We'll see, right? We'll see. So, what happens next? So, Macrinus over here already said in the first part that he wants to become head game maker. Why? That is so that he can win over the people, right? So people will come to the games, they will remember his name, they will know who he is. The senators will be like, oh, you've got so much influence with everyone, you're so popular. They will be on his side. And the senators, you know, already, like, that has to be established in the first part. They're not very happy with these two. The senators don't like Caracalla and Geta. Like, they're like, no. Like, these kids, they're responsible for the entire empire. And also, are they good emperors? Probably not. Like, they don't care for the people. We've already established that in the first part. They just care for their own entertainment, for their own fun, you know. They're fashion icons. Love it. But, you know, they're not really good emperors. So the Senate is like, sure, we root for you. It's not that easy, right? Obviously, he needs to bribe some senators. He needs to gain their trust, their friendship. Like, he's plotting and scheming the whole film, right? He's so smart. It's like, yeah, I gotta, like, what is it? I just gotta find my way into the site somehow, right? So, and he does, right? Okay, so he puts up the next games, more or less, right? Obviously, it could be that the whole rhino thing is still part of the games that these two put up, right? But let's just say he got promoted, Ediludus, head game maker, right? He got promoted because the previous head game maker had to resign, more or less voluntarily, after Lucius didn't play along with the naval reenactment, right? So Macrinus is like, yeah, gotta take that job. I have a great idea what to do next, because that naval reenactment was a huge spectacle, right? Huge thing. He's like, yeah. How can we do that? How can we make it even bigger? Well, quite literally. He's like, I got a rhino somewhere. I don't know where he got that. So he's like, yeah, I got a rhino. Let's have our gladiators over here fight a rhino, and people will love it, right? Get on Caracalla, sold on the idea. They're like, cool, never seen that before. Maybe this is a very exotic animal for them at that point. They're like, amazing, right? Amazing. Also, obviously, even though people are very excited for the games, there have to be some minor problems in the empire, something cooking over there, you know, people, like the empire is getting bigger, right? Marcus over here, who's just claimed Numidia, like the empire is getting bigger. He's brought home a lot of prisoners of war, which means that Rome is getting even more crowded. And that means people need more food. They need more of everything, you know, more food, more drinks, like they need more place to live. Like it's getting very crowded. Obviously these two don't care. Like they're like, whatever. Let them eat war. like sure. Right. Marcus, one of the people, he noticed it. He noticed that people are growing a little unhappy with things. Macrinus over here, smart man that he is like, yeah, this is what I want. You know, we want just a little bit of unrest, right? We just want something that's close to explode, right? So that we can just fire it up when we need it, right? Okay, so in the background, people are getting discontent with these two, right? With their reign, the senators aren't happy with them, the people aren't happy with them, but they are very ignorant in their little palaces with their gold chains, you know, they're being fashion icons that they are. They're like, yeah, as long as we're having a good life, it's good. So that's all cooking in the back, right? We will come back to that. So people are, you know, not very happy, but now Macrinus is like, there are some more games. People are like, sure, we love games, you know, let's go. Let's have a great day at the Colosseum. So they go. They want to see Lucius perform. Like, over the course of the film, Lucius, like, maybe not for this particular, maybe for this scene, maybe later, like, he has to get some cool gladiator name. Something that people will be able to remember, because obviously he will not give his actual name. That's a huge thing. Like, we have established that in the first part, have we? I think so. His identity obviously is a secret. Obviously. He can't go around and be like, yeah, I'm Lucilla's son. No, he can't do that. Right? So, he has to get some cool gladiator name. And we don't know what that is yet. But I would vote for the Reaper. I love that. I think that would be a cool name. It is a bit Christian, but I did look up, the Roman god Saturn also is associated with like the scythe in order to cut people's lives through or something. So, and also, like, if he was a farmer back in Numidia, he might have used a scythe to, you know, cut the crops. So, I would vote for the Reaper. I love that. Okay, so, but we'll see. He'll get a cool name, right? Maximus' name was the Spaniard, so they know that we need a stage name, right? They will give him a stage name. And I am very excited for what it is. Okay, so, going back to the rhino, like, I'm going on so many tangents, I'm sorry. Okay, so, back to the rhino. Why do they fight a rhino? You know, some might argue that, you know, that is a bit anachronistic. You know, gladiators didn't really fight wild animals. Again, I'm not a historian, but all the historians on the podcast said, yeah, that's basically true. So, they didn't do that. Then why do we have Maximus in the first film fight a tiger? Why do we have Lucius here now fight a rhino? Like, the monkeys don't count because that wasn't real gladiatorial combat. That was just a bunch of prisoners of war being thrown into an arena with wild animals to be ripped to shreds, right? So they don't count. But the rhino does, right? So it's like, why? Why do we do that? If historical gladiators, like real gladiators, never fought a rhino or any animal in the first place. Well, because stakes, you know, because that raises the stakes, you know. It's just a way to show us that this is about survival. This is my favorite line. Okay, so first of all, a rhino compared to a tiger, like a rhino is much bigger. Like this is the sequel to Gladiator. It has to be even more epic, right? Paulie here has to feel even more epic, right? There has to be something, right? Bigger is always better. So let's go with a rhino. Why else? Well, so a rhino is a huge animal. It's huge. And as a single person, it's basically impossible to take down this huge animal. Like, unless you're Legolas, you can't shoot it. And I am aware that it wasn't really a rhino, right? Thank you. Right, so, like, the odds, again, are against him. Like, obviously Macrinus has to put him in some very dire situation where people actually believe that he could die. Like, we have to believe this as the audience. And we know that he's the main character. He's going to make it out alive. We know that. He's going to fight him at some point. Like, we haven't seen that yet, so he has to live, right? But he doesn't know that. Like, we know so much that the main character doesn't know, which is lovely. We love that. But still, we have to worry for him. And a rhino is great. Like, any huge animal, any wild animal is great for doing that. Because a wild animal, like, these are kept not in the best conditions in the Colosseum. Like, they're not fed very well, they're probably not treated very well. So these animals are not supposed to give everyone a good time, like everyone else, except for these two, right? So they're probably starved to a point where they are willing to feed on anything that comes in front of their eyes, right? Also, they're probably mistreated, right? If you poke them just long enough, they will bite back, you know, something like that. So that is one thing. Like, these animals, they're not here to show mercy, right? That is basically the biggest difference between fighting a wild animal or fighting a different gladiator, right? Maybe at some point he's got to fight his best friend, or like that friend, or just some mean gladiator from gladiator school, right? Right. He has to fight some other people too, but he has to fight an animal first. Why? Well, because, as I said, the stakes are higher with an animal. An animal doesn't care if you're nice, if you're a nice guy, you know. Also, an animal will not show you mercy, right? The rhino will not hesitate before the last strike. A human might be hesitant to kill you, right? The animal don't. Like, the animal doesn't care, right? With human fights, like one-on-one gladiator fights, technically, the emperor, like most of these gladiators, didn't die on the sand. Not necessarily. Some of them did, but for most fights, they didn't, because I have said that in the first part. Like, it's a 2-year training to become a gladiator. Those are expensive. You can't just put them in the arena and have them kill each other after one fight. you don't train them for 2 years for a 2 seconds fight or 2 minute fight. No, right? So they usually survive unless the emperor decides differently, right? And they would always usually decide based off of what the people want, right? An animal doesn't hesitate. An animal cannot be held back. Like, the emperor can't be like, rhino, no. And the rhino won't be like, okay, sure, I'm going back to my stables. No. A rhino would not do that. So this is why the stakes are so much higher with an animal, right? Okay. Also, maybe to see his initial fighting, I'm sorry, it's getting a little loose here. To see his initial fighting against animals other than people, we've had him fight other people, right? We've had him fight the Roman legion in the beginning. We've had him fight the other ship in the naval reenactment, but these were all very faceless humans. Like, they were soldiers, nameless. We didn't know anything about them, right? When it comes to one-on-one combat, the stakes are higher in the sense, like the emotional stakes are higher, because we see that this is one human. Like, maybe we know something about them. Maybe we're friends with them, you know? Maybe we just know that the mean other gladiator he has to fight is a mean person, right? And then we're rooting for him, right? Something like that. So, an animal doesn't show emotion. But this is what I wanted to get at, okay? So, Lucius, smart cookie that he is, we love him. He's so smart. He's so smart. Like, he already saved a bunch of people in the naval reenactment, right? So everyone's like, what shall we do now? Like, they're turning to him for advice. They're like, you saved us once, you gotta save us again, right? Again, he's the main character. People will root for him. People will veer to him. People are like, yeah, we're following you, whatever it is, right? Even if he's kind of unlikable. Like, I don't think he will be unlikable, but he's like, he doesn't really want to be friends with anyone. Of course, there will be reluctant friendships, you know. I think especially with these two. I don't know. Maybe there will be someone else in the group. Like, who knows, right? Okay. So he's like, well, what is it? He knows that one person alone cannot take down a rhino. Like, no. A rhino, huge, very heavy, with thick skin, and this horn that is very dangerous. Like, it can either step on you, it could just raise you with that horn and you will die of blood infection. Like, there are a million ways to die from the rhino. So it's like, well, we have to hold together, and then we have to use our surroundings. Like, he knows that human strength alone will not be enough to fight this rhino. So they have to make use of what they have. And what they have is a wall, right? The arena, like the sands, are walled, right? So he's like, well, let's just try and play catch with the rhino. Okay? Obviously, people will scatter, right? As soon as the rhino starts charging against them, people will scatter. People are scared. People are like, no, I'm not standing here. I'm not waiting for that last second. They're trying, and obviously they're failing. Like, so we see a lot of his people, a lot of his friends, like fellow gladiators, be killed by that rhino, right? It will be gory. Like, we see that horn bloodied. Like, somebody is going to get stabbed by the horn. Like, you know, it's going to be bloody, right? There will be blood on the sands, just as there was blood in the water earlier, right? Okay. And we're like, oh my god, is he going to make it? Like, we have to believe that he's in danger, right? We have to believe it. And now that everyone's kind of out of it, like, either they're injured or dead, maybe unconscious, whatever. So he's one of the last people standing, and that rhino is like, gotta get that person, of course, like, gotta get. So the rhino charges at Lucius, and then Lucius is like, yeah, sure, let's do the dust trick. Well, we've seen that in the trailer. We know it's happening, right? Is that a little bit ridiculous? Yes, absolutely. But will it work? Sure. Like, we're like, good. He's still alive. We love it, right? So we can excuse this ridiculous stunt. Like, I can excuse that rhino stunt, but the monkey scream, like, I don't know, screaming at that monkey, I don't know. Well, we'll see. You know, maybe it won't feel as cringy watching it. So, but the rhino stunt is amazing. So the crowd goes wild. We're amazed. Like, the crowd is like, oh my god, did you really do that? That's basically superhuman. They're like, wow, he's so good. So he quickly becomes everyone's favorite gladiator, right? Nobody thought he would make it out alive. But everybody loves an underdog, and now that he is still around, they're like, we have to remember his name, right? Probably he gets the cool gladiator name after that, right? So at that moment, he's not yet the Reaper, right? But he will be, right? So it's like, naval reenactment, check. Rhino, check. What can happen next, right? So, well, the one-on-one combat, right? So with the naval reenactment and with the rhino scene, like, the eyes were not solely on Lucius. Like, he was one in a group. So we progressively go from fighting with many people to fighting all by himself, right? So now we get the one-on-one stuff, right? And therefore he gets the cool name, and people will remember him. They will shout his name. They will, I don't know, draw a sign. No, they will basically be his fans, right? He will get some fans, and that is not too far-fetched. Like, this is not ridiculous. Like, in one of the podcasts, one of the historians, the experts on gladiators, said that they were basically like ancient influences, right? So a gladiator could be used to do promotion for whatever, wine, oil, weapons, whatever. Be like, I only drink wine from XYZ's tavern, or I think the best swords are made by that person, whatever. And people would be like, gotta go there, gotta check that out, right? So Lucius gaining more and more influence, social influence, popularity. And through Lucius, who gains more popularity, more influence, maybe even gets more money? Macrinus. So his plan is working. It's like, amazing. We love it, right? And it's like, cool. Phase 1, check. Obviously, we get some bonding time, you know, after all the fighting, after all the violence, we have to have some moments of tenderness, of friendship. So we either get to see him make reluctant friends with these, you know, also the wise friend. I gave him this title, the wise friend, because obviously he's the one who's like more philosophical, right? He's like, yeah, you know, what is it that makes you so angry? You know, things of the past, you cannot change, right? Like, you can't change what's happened, but you can change what is about to happen. You know, can't change the past, but the future. It's like, yeah, no, I want to take Rome apart. he's still on his anger train, right? He's still on the anger train. He's like, now that I'm popular, I will take down Rome from within. I don't know how he thinks he can do that, but whatever. Maybe Macrinus here is like, yeah, I want to take down the emperor. I don't know if he would confide in Lucius and like, yeah, I want to take down the emperors and just leave out the fact that he wants to replace them. But maybe Lucius is like, if you want to take down the emperors, I'm on your side because I hate Rome. He's so angry. He's fueled with anger still, right? This is very much his angry teenager mode. Like, is he a teenager? No, but he kind of feels like an angry teenager. Right? Okay, so his wise friend is always trying to get him back into thinking, like, you know, whatever it is that happened, just let it go. It's like, no, I can't. And he will make some reluctant friends with or unnamed friends. Like, they will get very close. Like, you know, and why? Well, I haven't quite decided whether I want to kill him. But obviously, in order to have that impact, we have to care for him. And the best way to care for him is if other people do, right? So Lucius obviously doesn't want him dead, right? He probably saved his life in that naval reenactment situation with a rhino or whatever, right? So these two grow closer, but also Lucius knows that the best fights, like the most emotional fights in the arena, are between people who know each other, right? So I don't know whether they will see each other in the arena on the set. I don't know, but if they do, we have to know both of them, right? So that's what I meant with emotional stakes. We have to know his backstory. Did he also have a wife and children that died when Marcus here took over Numidia? Like, who did he lose? Like, obviously he lost his freedom as well, so they have that in common, but what else is there? Like, he's more than just a side character. Like, he needs some background story too. And this is when we see him fight, we feel like, oh, we want him to win. So if he fights other people, whatever. Obviously, we don't want him to win against Lucius here. But we must be torn between these two. We have to know that this is a human being with dreams, fears, hope. Yeah. Same goes for him. Like he's more than just wise, He also has a backstory. Like they all need some backstory. So part 2 is like establishing people's backstory. So we know who everyone is. Like we already know the main characters, but what about the side characters? Right? We have to. And that is a great way to, calm down after all the fighting and the blood and the gore, right? Okay. So who else gets some tender moments? Obviously these two, right? These two. Lucilla here, Lucilla, she hadn't recognized Lucius in the naval reenactment, right? How could she? But maybe fighting the rhino, I don't know Gladiator 1 enough to know whether there is some parallel in their fighting style or anything, whatever. But she has to recognize her son at some point. She has to be like, wait a minute, like, he looks oddly familiar. What? And I think the rhino scene is a good moment for her to come to realize that this man is not just any prisoner from Numidia, but her son. And this is how we also learn that why didn't she go with him, right? So 20 years ago, when she sent her son away, why didn't she do that? Why did she stay behind? Why did she stay in Rome when Rome was so dangerous? Well, because everybody knew her face, right? She couldn't. She was the daughter of an emperor, the sister of an emperor, the mother of the heir to the throne. Like, people would know her. And wherever she went, people would know that little boy following her around. Gotta get rid of him. And this is also, like, so she didn't go with him. She kept everything a secret. She probably doesn't even know where she sent him, right? She just sent him off to some distant relatives or something. I don't know. She probably doesn't know. She hasn't contacted him in 20 years. And he thinks it's because she forgot about him. But of course not. Well, she didn't do that because people would find out where he is and kill him, right? And this is the only reason why she's still alive. Like, why would Geta and Caracalla keep that woman alive? What is it that makes her so important, so valuable for these two, that they keep her alive and use her as a leverage against Marcus? I mean, one thing, obviously she's a great way to control Marcus, but that didn't start out with these two. The important part is these two. So she knows her son. She knows her son's still alive, right? And they don't know where he is, right? And this is why his identity is the biggest secret, right? So obviously they didn't come up with that themselves, right? So obviously it was their dad or someone before him, who was like, yeah, we better keep her alive to find out whether her son ever wants to try to find her. Because he's the heir to the throne, you know? I'm not quite sure if this is how the imperial throne actually worked, but for the sake of storytelling, it's important, right? He's the chosen one. He's the heir to the throne. So they must never know. But the moment she realizes who he is, she's like, I gotta help him. I have to find out how I can protect him, right? And so she confides in the one person she has, Marcus over here, right? She's like, look, gotta tell you something. The guy in the arena, I think, is my son, right? So Marcus obviously, like, she's not like, yeah, I know for sure. I'm not sure if she knows for sure. Or, like, maybe she does, but he's like, we have to fact check if that's true. You know, we have to find out. So Marcus over here, secretly trying to find out who Lucius really is. Obviously, he remembers Lucius from the battlefield in Numidia. He doesn't tell Lucilla that they have met before. Probably. I don't know. He's like, yeah, well, that person, I think he holds a grudge against me. I'm not sure. Right? So he's keeping that secret. So she doesn't know that these two have beef going on. Right? But she asks him for help. And we as the audience are like, oh my god, will he help him? Or will he just trade him in? You know? Will he just do it? Of course he won't, because he knows that if he tells Geta and Caracalla who Lucius is, they're like, great, sure, let's get rid of him, and that would solve his problem, but they're also like, then they don't need Lucilla anymore. Right? So obviously he's holding this secret, right? But now he knows, and he's trying to find out what he can do to help him. Obviously that is hard, right? And obviously Lucius doesn't want his help at all. Like, maybe they meet at some point and Marcus is like, trying to help you with something. And Lucius is like, go away. I'm not interested. You have killed my wife. And I will kill you. It's like, I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. Yeah. So Marcus, his help is not appreciated. Right? But Lucilla is like, I have to try. I have to try. So what does she try? Where does she go? Well, to his owner. Maybe she's like, Macrinus, that guy, that gladiator you have, how much do you want for him? Maybe she's trying to buy him back or something. Buy his freedom. I don't know. But she has to be interested in him. Very interested. So that Macrinus gets suspicious. He's like, why are you so interested in this random gladiator? And she's like, well, just, he's my new celebrity, whatever, right? So the thing is, obviously, like, the more popularity Lucius gains, the more fans he gains, the more people start objectifying him. They're like, oh, and he looks so good, the way he fights, he's more than just an athlete, he's an artist. Like, they all have a crush on him, right? They all kind of, he's the celebrity of ancient Rome. So people are interested in who is he, what does he do, what does he like. They're interested in his looks, and it's sadly ironic that people start sexualizing him so much, Poor Mescal was like, yeah, I don't want to be regarded as an underwear model. Yeah, what gladiators fought in, but you know. Anyway, so people are like, "Ah, we love him. We want to know everything about him. Obviously, that's not a good idea because when people start asking questions, they will find out, right? And Macrinus is also like, who are you? Like, who was your father? Who was your mother? Where do you come from? You look so different than all the rest of Numidia, right? Fair-skinned, blue-eyed, and red-haired. Like, we're like, you're not. Are you from Numidia? You know, and obviously, Lucius is like, I won't tell you anything. Maybe he comes up with a story, right? Maybe it's like, yeah, my parents died and I had to live with my uncle, but right. But Macrinus is not buying it. It's like, whatever it is, there is something he has to uncover. So he starts having a closer look at Lucilla. And the thing is, Macrinus is a very smart person, and he can do the math. He knows Lucilla had a son, like, not just a teenager yet, whom she sent away 20 years ago. And now we have this 30-something person whom Lucilla is very interested in. Yeah, like, he's smart. The math is mathing, right? So he's like, yeah, I know something. And he will use that. You know, he will. But of course, like, he's plotting and scheming all the time. He's plotting and scheming, right? So what are these two doing? You know, what are these two doing? Well, they're just partying, having their lives. You know, they're living a good life. But again, people are not really happy with them. You know, so there might be some minor uprisings that they have to, you know, cut down. There are people, you know, who really voice up against them. The senators, no longer on their side. The senators trying to, you know, I don't know, influence them. They notice that, you know. They don't like the Senate, you know. The Senate doesn't do as they want. You know, the Senate's like, no, whatever. These two know that their position isn't too safe, you know, but also they don't care. They're like, they think they are untouchable, which, given the fact that their father came to the throne not because he earned it, but because he took it, is, you know, I think they made themselves comfortable on these chairs. So like, yeah, we want to sit here. Okay. But since everyone is kind of unhappy with things, Marcus here thinks he has to take action. You know, he has to do as he can to maybe influence one of them, the one that he thinks would make more sense to do something for the people. Right? Why does he think Geta is more open? You know? Well, we've had that scene earlier when he was like, yeah, people have to be fed. And Geta was like, I think you're right. You know, kind of didn't say it, but you can see it on his face. But he was like, yeah, kind of has a point there. Caracalla, not interested. You know, Caracalla is just interested in his jewelry. You know, he's like, yeah, having a good life. Geta is like, yeah, maybe he has a point there, just a little bit. So Marcus slowly but steadily nudges Geta into whatever direction he needs them to. Like, don't go to war anymore. Care for the people, you know, make sure there's enough to eat. Like, who's the one who controls the food? Yeah, so these two working against each other, right? Also, since he has the loyalty of the soldiers, like, he knows how to deal with uprisings. Like, you know, he tries what he can. You know, sad Pedro that he is. He's like, I want to do better. Like, I really want to change things for the better. Like, a dreamer, he's an idealist, and that is how you know that he's gonna die, right? But, you know, it is what it is, right? So, Geta and Marcus, they're like, okay, hatching a plan. Something that Caracalla is not happy about, because Caracalla, on the other hand, is influenced by Macrinus. Why? As I said, Caracalla, the more power-hungry, the more bloodthirsty emperor, he's like, let's go to war. Like, he is so fascinated by the idea of soldiers. He wants to be a great warrior himself. Like, the historical Caracalla was obsessed with Alexander the Great. So, he too is obsessed with Alexander the Great. He's like, I want to be like him, right? And Macrinus is like, you sure can. Obviously, like, you basically look like him. Yeah. Obviously, he's telling him what he wants to hear. It's like, yeah, but you know, Alexander the Great, well, he was called the Great because he conquered the world. You didn't yet, you know, you're just reigning over that little Roman Empire. You can expand. And you know what? I got catapults, I got weapons, I got arms, whatever. You know, he's like, I can help you with that. And Caracalla's like, yeah, obviously. So these two, plotting and scheming, like, they are more like reluctant allies, I think. But these two are plotting and scheming, right? Very much, right? So Macrinus plotting with Caracalla, plotting with the Senate, plotting something against Marcus over here, trying to find out more about Lucius, because what is it that Lucilla is so interested in? The border set, right? And also, maybe Macrinus finds out through Caracalla that these two brothers had a hand in their father's passing, right? If they did, right? If they didn't, that doesn't make any sense. But if they did, he's like, you know, is it true that you and your brother, you know, like, rumor has it that your father was a terrible emperor, so you just freed the empire of his tyranny, whatever. Is it true? He's like, yeah, you know, kinda. And then Macrinus is like, you better watch out, because if your brother was willing to kill your father, he might as well kill you. So you better strike first, right? And Caracalla's like, yeah, I think you're right. I think you have a point here. But since Geta and Caracalla do not share the same, like, even like rooms of the empire, they have divided the palace into like their own personal spaces, right? It's like, I don't know what to do. Like, how? Like, how do we do that? Macrinus like, don't worry. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of that. It's not a problem. I can do this. Because, yeah. The thing is, he wants to be emperor, right? He wants to be emperor. But these two are currently emperors. So how do you take down two evil emperors? One by one. And he has already made his choice, going with Caracalla, because he thinks he's easier to influence, right? He's easier to control. He's the one who's interested in going to war. He's the one providing all of that, right? Geta, on the other hand, is more influenced by Marcus over here, whom Macrinus needs out of the way, right? So he's like, well, taking out Geta will help me take out Marcus, or the other way around, you know? Now, these two have to go, right? How does he do that? Well, we'll get to a little assassination plot, right? Okay, let me just see whether I forgot something in my script, right? So, just to be sure. Wait a second. No. No. Okay, so Macrinus still suspicious about Lucilla and Lucius. Plotting against Marcus. Plotting against Geta. Secretly plotting against Caracalla, but Caracalla doesn't know, right? We know. So the nice thing about watching a film with like multiple storylines as the audience is that we know everything. We get the broader picture. The characters don't. So the characters just know their own storylines, right? And they will run into problems, right? So Macrinus, it's like, yeah, how do I get rid of Geta and Marcus and keep my promise to Lucius? Well, it's like, I have to get rid of Geta first, you know? He's the one to take down first. But the problem with killing an emperor is, in contrast to killing a random person on the street, as a powerful person that he is, like, the problem with murdering an emperor is it doesn't go unnoticed, right? People will know. People will ask questions, right? And he can't just go like, yeah, sorry. He owed me money or whatever. No. He has to have a good reason to do that. Or he needs a scapegoat. He needs someone to take the blame. And who would work better for that than our friend Marcus over here? This is, by the way, where his name comes into play. I will share that with you now. Yeah, okay. So, Arcasius, right? I thought, well, in German there is a tree called Acacia, and I thought it had something to do with the tree, but no. It comes from a Greek word, which basically translates into not guilty. Yeah. So you're like, that name, like, that is not coincidental, right? They put that there. Like, the screenwriters were like, yeah. They knew what they were doing. So, Macrinus over here, plotting and scheming to frame Marcus for Geta's murder. Now, he's like, let's assassinate the emperor. Let's do this. How do they do that? Well, obviously, he needs Caracalla to lure Geta into a trap, right? Something super obvious, Something where you're like, yeah, boy, it's a trap, don't go. Something very, very obvious. Historically, right, Geta was, like, invited by Caracalla to have a little chat in their mother's rooms. So their mother is not on the wall because I don't think she'll make it into the movie, but they actually had a mother. No, but I don't know if you can see her sitting behind Caracalla over there, because we already have a mother character, right? And Ridley Scott was like, why add another female actress? Why add another female character to the board? We already have a mother character. Yeah, let's just use her for that too, right? Okay. She's not really their mother, yeah, right? Maybe they have some weird relationship with her, they keep her hostage, but they also go like, yeah, but we like you so much and you have to care for her. I don't know, something weird. Like, poor Lucilla is, like, she really has all the terrible things going down. Like, poor Lucilla, like, she's been through a lot. Like, with her weird brother, and now she's got the horror twins, like, yeah, we don't envy her, right? So, Caracalla, maybe he invites Geta, like, Macrinus, like, there's something going on with Lucilla, so she better get out of the way too, right? So, Macrinus is like, Caracalla, how about you set up a meeting with your brother Geta and Lucilla, and maybe I'll just care for the rest. I'll just care for the rest. Make sure one of them, or at least one of them, doesn't walk out anymore, and it won't be you, right? Okay. So Caracalla's like, good, let's do this, right? Because, as I said, like, the actual assassination plot between these two was like executed in their mother's rooms, right? So Caracalla and Geta met in their mother's rooms, and then one of them was stabbed. I'll give you a moment to guess who was stabbed. Also remember, like, the Romulus and Remus comparison, if you know the legend, you know that one of them stabbed the other. And, Okay, so Macrinus setting up that stage, inviting Lucilla. Marcus is like, obviously, he wants Marcus to know. Like, he's like, I think Caracalla is plotting against Lucilla. There is something going. So Marcus over here hears something about it. He's like, it's not good. If Macrinus is plotting, Caracalla is plotting, it's not good. He probably guesses that these two try to kill Geta, and for some reason they need Lucilla. So he's like, no, not my girl. He wants to save her, but also Macrinus will make sure that Lucilla thinks that Marcus is in danger. So she's like, yeah, not my man. Like, these two, they want to protect each other. Do they know it's an obvious trap? Yes. Do they still walk straight into it? Yes. Because they love each other. It's true love. So they walk into that trap. I don't know how it will play out, but it will be that Caracalla obviously survives. And it's Geta who's stabbed. Right? It's Geta. Why? Well, because the historical Geta was stabbed. So he died in his mom's arms. Very sad. So Lucilla is around for that. So Lucilla will try to probably save him, maybe stop the bleeding, whatever. So she's full of blood. He's full of blood. Maybe he comes in just a second too late. Just a little bit. And Macrinus and Caracalla are like, one of you killed the emperor. And they're like, well, you better take the blame, or we will make sure that the both of you die, right? So Marcus is like, sure. I want Lucilla to live. Wait, I love her. He's like, yeah. And he takes the blame, right? Lucilla obviously is like, oh, don't do this. He's like, no, you gotta do this. I'm going into the arena to talk to your boy Lucius. You have to care for Junior. You have to live. You have to make it out. Like, I love you, but he is beyond redemption, right? He knows he has committed so many war crimes. Like as much as we love Maximus from the first film, he was a Roman general. Like, he fought wars for the Roman Empire. Like, did he do anything good? And he's just the same. The difference is that he realizes, he has questions, he has doubts. He's like, yeah, I've been good at my job. It was a well-paid work, but at what cost? It's like, I don't deserve happiness and peace. But one thing I can do is I can try to save your boy. Right? So Lucilla, with a heavy heart, is like, okay, well, because obviously they also don't have a choice, right? It's either just him or the two of them. Like, Caracalla makes sure that if he doesn't go along, they will kill Lucilla, right? So obviously he's like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, well, maybe he is framed for the murder in the first place, but I do think that they will have some internal struggle here that he is taking her place, right? But the end result is the important part. So Marcus is framed for the emperor's murder, right? Everyone's like, oh my god, the military general, like our most trusted, loyal general, the one we held these huge games for, he murdered our beloved emperor. So, of course, he has to die, right? What else is there? Right? He has to go. Macrinus is like, Caracalla, I have a great idea how we can execute him in a spectacular way. Because he has the military loyalty, right? All the soldiers follow him, right? They don't follow Macrinus. And even though he is framed for murder, right, they know this is all staged. Like probably everybody knows that this is staged. Everybody knows that it was Caracalla. Everybody. Maybe he even did it himself. Maybe he had Macrinus do it, maybe he had the right hand do it. Maybe he did it himself. I think he can do it himself. I think. It's like, yeah, I always wanted to stab someone. Now's the time, right? So, everybody knows. The thing is, even back in history, everybody knew that Caracalla had murdered his brother. But how did he get away with that? Well, he was like, he was trying to kill me first. I just got there. I just got there first. He was trying to kill me. It was either him or me, right? So people were like, okay, So everybody knows Marcus is innocent, but that doesn't matter. We have to have someone pledged guilty, And even though we know his name says he's not, his name says he's the innocent one. He's the one. And this is also why he wears that Medusa head on his breastplate. Medusa is like this legendary monster, but our more modern feminist reading of her is that she's not the villain, she's the victim of the story. And so is Marcus, Also, I read that lots of soldiers use that ornament on their breastplate to avert the evil eye, but I think there's more metaphor to this, Okay, so Marcus thrown in the dungeons, and Macrinus is like, I have a great idea to execute him spectacularly, to remind all the soldiers who the emperor is, who the one in power is, what happens to those who budge. And that is, let him fight our favorite gladiator. Obviously by that point, he has to have some more fighting with other people. I don't think his storyline will. I know he's the main character, and we haven't spent so much time with him yet. But I feel like his story is made mostly, hulking up, training, being angry, fighting other people. He's not really plotting and scheming, right? These are plotting and scheming. He's just reacting. Is he active? Yes. He's doing a lot. We will see a lot of them, of him in the film. He will have trained for a reason, right? So we will see a lot of fighting. But he's not, even though he's part of those political schemes, he's not an active player. Does he want, I don't know, because, I think what we know makes him less active than he could be in the film. Maybe he plays a more, important role in, actively trying to organize something. Like maybe he's, since he reluctantly made friends with these people, maybe he's trying to organize kind of an uprising, but not yet. Not yet. We're about to get to the murder of Geta is like the middle of the movie, right? I know this is a very long video, but this is basically the middle of the movie, right? So we're just entering the second half. Even though watching the film is so much shorter than watching my videos, but yeah. Anyway, so Marcus here, thrown in the dungeon. Macrinus is like, let's have our favorite gladiator execute Marcus. And obviously, there have to be some fights leading up to that. So Marcus here has to fight some other people before, right? So that we see he's a good fighter. Like, we want to get the masses entertained. We want to have them, root for people. We want to have them to be like, yeah, placing bets. And so we have to see him fight first, right? So let me see if I forgot anything in between. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So one thing that's very important. A major plot twist. I almost forgot the major plot twist. Lucilla over here. She's in distress, right? She has a problem. Like, her husband framed for murder. Not just for any murder, but for murdering the emperor, right? She still has to care for Lucius. She has a lot on her mind. She's obviously worried for her son. So she goes to visit him. She wants to talk to him. He, on the other hand, does not. He's not happy to see his mom. He's still resentful. He's still, very much trying to push her away, which obviously hurts her. She's like, I only sent you away to keep you safe. And he's like, well, you could have told me. Misunderstanding between them. Miscommunication trope between the two of them. A bit annoying, but okay. Even though he's so smart, he doesn't see it. He's so smart, but that he doesn't get. He's a hurt child. Sent away by his mother. It's like, you didn't come to look for me. You never tried to find me. What is it? And she's like, I was only trying to keep you safe. If I had tried to come to see you, they would have known, and they would have killed you, right? But he's like, no, he's not having a good time. And for some reason, I don't know why she would come up with that now that they're having a bad time anyway. Maybe she's like, it can't get worse. So she drops a bomb. And what is it? Maybe he's like, I can't do it anymore. I've lost my wife. I don't want to live anymore. It's just over and done with. And she's like, no, no, you have your father's strength. He's like, what? Lucius Verus? What? I don't think he was very popular. I don't know. I don't remember him from the first film. I don't know if he was in the first film. It doesn't matter. It's like, Lucius Verus? What is it with Lucius Verus? And she's like, no. Your father, your true father, wasn't Lucius Verus. Of course, it was Maximus. Well, so quick tangent. The day before the second trailer dropped, I've been working on this video for a very long time, on the script. And I did ask myself whether it was implied that Maximus was Lucilla's lover, that was implied, I think. But I did wonder whether they would go as far as making Maximus Lucius's father. And I'm not lying. The day before the trailer dropped, I asked a friend, and I was like, who knows the film a bit better? And I was like, do you remember if it was implied that Lucius was actually Maximus' son? And she was like, no, it's not. Like, they do, like these two, they have history, yes, but not that kind of history. And then, that was on a Sunday, and then, like 24 hours later, not even, the trailer dropped. And everyone's like, oh my god. What a plot twist. They really did go there. Honestly, I think that is the cheesiest choice they could have made. Oh, I don't really like it very much, I have to say. But okay, so we learn that Maximus is Lucius' son. At first I was like, well, maybe it's just clever editing. You know, a trailer doesn't show you the whole film. This is why we're doing this in the first place. Like, people were like, oh, we've basically seen the whole film, but have we? No. And the trailer is edited in a way that it tells a story, even though this is not how it is told in the actual film, right? We are led to believe that certain scenes happen together, or very close together, you know, which not necessarily, you know? And I was like, maybe it's just cleverly edited to get people interested, to get people enticed and be like, really? Is that true? Right? Maybe she was like, oh, take your father's strength. And he was like, Lucius, what was it with Lucius? And he's like, well, he was someone's best friend. And that person's name was Maximus. You know, something like that. I was like, we can still have hope that they're not going down that way. But then, I think journalists talked to Paul Mescal about this, and he was like, yeah, when I first read that, I was like, wow. So, yeah. Like father, like son, I guess. I don't really like that, and I will explain why. Well, first of all, it's super cheesy, right? We already got the parallel with the murdered wife, you know? But second of all, like, as I said in my first part of this video series, I don't really remember all of the first film. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But isn't Maximus's whole character arc about, like, doesn't it revolve around the fact that he's lost his wife, he's lost his son, he's lost his social standing, he has nothing left but his revenge. Like, nothing. And this is the only reason he could commit all these crimes. He could kill all these people. He didn't really care. All he wanted to do was face the murderer of his family. You know? Isn't that his whole character? And now we learn that he actually has a second family. He just happened to like the first one better. What? Also, like, I know people can be like, well, she just didn't tell him. You know, these two had an affair. She got pregnant. She didn't tell him. Maybe because he was about to get married to someone else. Maybe he already was married to someone else. But that doesn't really help him much, I think. Like, I mean, he either cheated on his wife or he cheated on his girlfriend. You know, like, that doesn't really help him. Also, like, I do think, like, Maximus, obviously, like, he was a more military strategic guy, but he must have been, you know, smart. Like, he can do math, right? So he's having a secret affair with the emperor's daughter, who's married to someone else, right? I mean, technically, since this is ancient Rome, he could have been like, you know, let's get him out of the way. Nobody liked Lucius Verus anyway, you know? He had the emperor's favor. Like, the emperor thought of making him his successor. Like, he could have just gotten away with murdering Lucius Verus and marrying Lucilla. you know. But of course, since strength and honor, he wouldn't do that, right? He wouldn't. So he's like, okay, can't do that. He's still, like, very honorably having an affair with that other person's wife, and then she gets pregnant and has a child, and he can't do the math combining that it's his child. Like, I'm not sure. Like, is that the Maximus we know and love from the first film, or is it some character assassination happening here? Because he either knew that Lucius, the boy from the first film, watching him fight in the arena, like, they even met. Like, Lucius even met this famous gladiator. Like, young Lucius really looked up to Maximus and was like, oh my god, this celebrity gladiator. So he even met him, and he didn't combine that, or maybe he did and he didn't care. Like, what is worse? Like, I don't know. Like, him being a bit dumb or not caring enough. Like, I don't know. Right? I don't know. It's not like this child, like, popped out of nowhere. It's like, okay. So obviously she didn't tell. And why didn't she tell him while he was fighting in the arena and be like, oh, you know, let your past, you know, let it be. Let's just flee from the city, have a little family like. I mean, obviously, that's part of the plot, right? We wouldn't have a plot if he did that. And again, having murdered all these people, he was beyond redemption, right? Just like our friend Marcus here. So, yeah, like, there was no way he could survive this movie, right? Even if people wanted him to, right? But, like, I don't know. I just think it's a bit too much. It's a bit too much. Like, but anyway, so Lucilla drops this bomb. Lucius obviously isn't happy with it. We understand. Like, we are not happy with it. We're like, what is this? And then we finally understand that Lucius, like, he has a point in being so angry. He's like, what? This man over there, he was my father, and he didn't like me enough to live. Like, what? Like, poor Lucius. Like, this is why Paul Mescal is part of the Tortured Men's Club. Like, these kind of roles. Like, poor Lucius. Like, he's like, no, that can't be. Like, my mother didn't love me. My daddy didn't love me. What is happening? My wife is dead. My child is nowhere to be seen. Like, his world upside down. Like, he is in emotional chaos. Like, it's too much. It's too much. And we're like, yeah, rightfully so. Like, this is a lot to take in. Yeah, poor Lucius. And this is how she leaves him. And he's like, well, fueled with rage, going to face our friend Marcus over here. Obviously, like, the setup, like, the timing, Lucilla, the timing. Questionable at best. I'm sure Lucilla was like, please don't be too hard on him. Try, you know, he's just trying to help you. And then he's like, well, he murdered my wife. And she's like, what? Hopefully, Lucilla at this point is questioning her taste in men. Like, we love Lucilla. We support Lucilla. We support women's rights. We support women's wrongs. But, you know, what can I say? First, not very honorable. Maximus over here. Now Marcus murdering the daughter. What is happening? Like, what is it? Like, poor Lucilla. Like as I said, she has all the negative stuff going on. Like, she's been dragged into 2 revenge stories over the course of 20 years. Like, first her lover, now her son, now her new lover is part of this too. Like, girls had enough. And we're like, oh yeah, poor girl. Like, it's a bit too much, right? So obviously she's in distress, he's in distress, like everybody's in distress. The only people who are rejoicing are Caracalla and Macrinus over here. You know, they're like, haha, my brother's dead. I'm the emperor now. I can do whatever I want. And Macrinus is like, want to go, right? So, oh my god. And this is how we get this huge showdown. You know? Sad Paul. Like, I'm confusing all the names. Why is his name Pedro and Paul? Like, I always get them confused. Doesn't matter. So, Paul said Pedro, right? He's like, he tried. Like, this is him trying. His face, he's so sad. He's so burnt out. Like, he's like, whatever. Obviously, he's having a last conversation with the villain. I hope it will be Macrinus or maybe Caracalla, maybe the two of them in a tent, you know. They're like, yeah, we are going to raise you from history, something very dramatic, so that he can come back with, you know, empires rise, emperors fall, you know, something like that, you know, something very dramatic, something very meaningful. He's like, everything will be lost, like tears and rain. Yeah, you can't say I don't know my Ridley Scott movies, right? So he's like, okay, he's saying something very, very meaningful, something people will remember, right? Okay, so, and these two like, nah. Emperors are basically untouchable, which we have proven by murdering Geta and murdering Dad before. So, like, you know, especially Caracalla, like, I'm like, what is he thinking? Like, does he really think he's the exception to the rule? Murdering his dad, murdering his brother? Why does he think he's safe? Well, probably because he's like, well, I got Macrinus on my side, you know? That man, my best friend. And Macrinus is like, oh, he's so naive. Like, oh, well, he's smiling so happily here. Yeah, his life is about to get worse. Well, anyway, going back to that. So, Macrinus is like, let's torture Marcus a little bit. He has to fight his own soldiers in the arena, just to prove a point, you know? Let's do this. So Marcus, getting ready for drama, you know? Okay, so let me see, just if I have forgotten something else, something other than this plot twist, you know? So what is there? Oh yeah, no. Okay. So, Macrinus over here, even like, again, throughout the whole film, he's been plotting and scheming with the senators. He's tried to take over the military. You know, maybe the soldiers that Marcus here has to fight are handpicked by Macrinus because he knows they are his most loyal soldiers or whatever, right? He's like, well, in order to live, he has to kill them, right? And this is what I meant with emotional stakes, right? We don't necessarily have to see Paulie here fight his best friend. It could also be that we see Pedro over here fighting his soldiers, like his brothers in arms, like the people who've trusted him, whom he has spent most of his time abroad with. Like they are very close, right? And like in the trailer we see him being so sad, like having to kill all of them. But it's like, well, it's you or them, right? So he wants to go home, like, but also like they too want to go home, and they don't really have a choice. right? So they were fighting, and the sad thing is he's really good, you know? He's really good. Well, good for him, because we're rooting for Pedro. Like, we like him. We're like, oh, he's such a misunderstood character. He's so, like, his sad, tragic backstory, like, has he murdered a lot of people? Has he committed several war crimes? Yes. But also, look at his face. He's so sad. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so Pedro kills a lot of his soldiers. He cuts through them, fights, whatever. And then he has to face the final enemy. You know, the one. Polly over here. I want to make a request. If you made this far into the video, you know, if you're good with editing, like better than I am, please, like, the section where Paul Mescal runs up the stairs into the arena, I really hope for someone to make a little video with him running up the stairs to the music of Eye of the Tiger. I think it's his song. It's his song, right? He's like rising up back from the street, you know? He went the distance. Now he's back on. Like, he's just a man and his will to survive, you know? I love it. So, that is him. Obviously, fueled by power. He's like full of rage. Like, he's just learned that his idol from his childhood, like, never meet your childhood idols, like, he's just learned that the man he looked up to, like, this idol, like, he was thinking, is his dad. And he doesn't know what to make of that. He's like, ugh, not really proud of that. So, and then he also learned that Lucilla was like, please don't kill Pedro over here. And he's like, what? He killed my wife. Like, of course, I will not spare his life. Did he spell Diana's? No. And Lucilla's like, but please, I love him. And he's like, I love my wife. She's dead, you know, an eye for an eye. something like that. No. He is not set on letting him live, right? He's like, no, absolutely not. So these two finally meet. Macrinus kept his promise. Good for him. Very nice. Lucius was like, good man. Well, like, okay, cool. I finally got my vengeance. Let's do this. Let's get started. And then they start fighting, you know. And I guess this is why Pedro Pascal refers to Paul Mescal as Brick Wall Paul, because you can tell from the trailer, like, Pedro Pascal, like, he probably didn't have to act. Like, he was very desperate. Like, he was like, oh my god, he's really trying to kill me, you know. He's very desperate. In order to take these pictures, I had to watch the trailer in slow motion, so you can really tell. Like, He's like, oh my god. He is expecting to die, you know? Paul here, not taking any chances. Like, and the thing is, like, Marcus has fought a lot of people prior to this fight. Like, he's exhausted. You know, he's exhausted. Paul here is not. He's like ready to go. And he's clearly superior. Clearly. And Marcus clearly has no chance. Right. The odds are not in his favor. Right. So we see them fight. This is what we've been waiting for. And then there's this final moment. He probably, like, Paul here, disarms Marcus. He's lying on the ground. The people go crazy. They're like, yes, we want him dead. Yeah. Paul bent over him. All he has to do is one final strike. But does he do it? Does he? Well, we'll find out in part 3.